Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Speak to Transform. Do you ever wonder how to get booked as a speaker? Well, today is all about what are the things you need to know if you want to get booked as a speaker. Some of the things may not be something you've been taught. And so I'm here to share with you some of those factors that I learned many years ago that actually revolutionized not only me as a speaker, but also as a speaking coach and how I serve my clients. If we've never met, my name is Lisa Vanderquek. I'm the CEO and founder of Speak to Transform Academy. I'm so glad you're here today. Tuning in at whatever platform you seem to be on today, I'd love it if you would subscribe, comment down below, and ask for notifications of when I go live every day, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Every day during the week, that is, not the weekends. I take my weekends off. So here we are today talking about how to get booked to speak. I have many women come to me and say, Lisa, how do I get booked to speak? Have you ever asked that question? Have you ever wondered how to get booked to speak? Well, one of the first questions I ask them is, what do you speak on? And most often, they don't really have a clear, definite answer to that. So if you were looking at my past trainings, you would know that the first thing you need to get clear on is your message. What do you speak on? And to become visible with that message. But then beyond that, more paid gigs. Well, that's an interesting concept in and of itself. Let me know what you mean by paid gigs. Do you mean for a fee? Because there's a whole different range of what that means, and I'd love to know what you mean. I can't see who you are. I just see Facebook user. It just says yes, more paid gigs. Let me know. Do you mean for a fee? Do you mean in person? Let me know some of the things. Let me know who you want to speak to. And then we can do a whole session on that about getting paid gigs. Would that be all right? But let me know in the comments what it is that you mean by that. Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about how to get paid to speak, meaning what do you need to know in order for you to get booked to speak, not paid to speak, get booked to speak. We're not going to talk about the paid part today, but I remember how I came to discover what you're about to learn today is years ago, I was actually coaching men and women, all different industries, some in accent reduction, in public speaking presentations, some in the oil industry, all different groups of people. And I was at an event and I heard there was a panel of these event organizers who were responsible for booking speakers for their influential stages, the kind of stages like Tony Robbins and places like that. And one of the questions that was asked to this panel of event organizers that were very, very successful in their own right was, what are some of the challenges that you have finding or booking speakers? Now, the first thing they said was this, that the biggest challenge was to find women speakers of the same caliber as their male counterparts. I don't know about you, but have you noticed that there's still predominantly male speakers that proliferate stages, unless it's specifically a woman's event? There's still proliferation. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be equal, but the kind of speakers they were looking for is really, really critical. Now, that was a long time ago. That was probably more than 10 years ago. And what I heard them say actually changed the course of my business. I shifted from that point to just working with women entrepreneurs because I realized that a lot of women entrepreneurs did not know, a lot of women speakers did not know that if they were to change a few things, just shift a few things, learn a few skills, they would be among those who would be sought out to get booked to speak on influential stages. So you ready for this? You ready to hear what these things are? So as they continued on in this panel, the event organizers said, first of all, that they had a hard time finding women speakers of the same caliber as their male counterparts. And specifically, they looked for women speakers who possessed these three skills. The first one is that you were able to command attention. Now, what does that mean? Now, whether it be on a in-person stage or on a platform like this, they specifically were talking about in person because back then, not everybody was on the internet. I was, but not everybody was. So they were specifically focused on in-person stages. So they said they were looking for women who could command attention. And what exactly does that mean? That means the moment you get on that stage, you stand in front of the people, you get on this camera, you were able to step into that place with authority, with confidence, that you know what you're about to say with confidence, and you have an assurance that you are speaking to the right people. So it's in your presence. Remember, we talked about those three areas: the words, the voice, and the body physical intelligence. Your presence, does it exude confidence? Does it exude that you know what you're talking about, that you have some sense of authority as you stand in that place? This is what commanding attention or capturing attention is all about. And listen, ladies, this attention span that people have, you and I, is getting less and less. So we used to say the first 30 seconds, but actually it's less now. The first 7 seconds are critical for you to command attention, to communicate to your listeners that you know what you're talking about, that there is, just by your presence, by how you stand, how you show up, that is critical in those first 7 seconds, because otherwise they formulate a perception of you that may be the opposite, and that affects their willingness and ability to stay tuned in. So the second thing that they looked for are women speakers who could deliver a clear, concise message. Have you ever heard a speaker who was all over the place? I mean, maybe they had some good content and even some good stories, but they were kind of all over the place. They didn't seem to have any cohesiveness to their message, no concrete flow, no really thing that you can grab hold of and say, yeah, that was the core of their message. Well, this is one of the things that they found with a lot of women speakers in particular, was that they tend to be all over the place. So you may find yourself like that you just want to give, and so you got lots of words and you're just all over the place. That actually does your audience a disservice. And specifically, if you want to get booked to speak on influential stages, they want to see a skill that you have developed, that you're able to deliver a clear, concise message. You're able to say things succinctly while commanding attention and engaging your audience, and that it's a clear path that you bring your audience on. That involves being able to structure your message in a way that is still engaging, that's clear, knowing how much content to use and how much is too much, and how much is appropriate and how much is for another time. That is a skill in and of itself. And that's one of the things that I teach my clients, because it is critical if you want to not only command attention and engage your audience, but to get booked to speak and to get rebooked to speak. The third skill that these event organizers were looking for was a woman speaker who had a clear call to action and a strong call to action. Now, let me know what your experience is this. Are you the kind of speaker that maybe neglects this part or feels awkward giving a clear call to action? Or maybe you just want to give lots of options and not leave anybody out. Let me know what you do when you speak. Because here's what I've discovered and here's what I've observed, is that many women speakers give more than one clear next step. And again, you are doing your audience a disservice. There were studies done years ago about this to say, we have so many options available to us now as women that it must be easier for us to make a decision and less stressful. That was what they went into the study believing they would see as the outcome. And so they did a survey and they talked to, I don't know how many women entrepreneurs and women, just successful women, and asked them about their decision making and about options that were before them. And here's what they found. They found that even though there were more options available to us, it actually increased our stress level and it made the decision making harder. Why? Because many people, if you are presented with more than one option or multiple options, many people will just freeze because they're afraid of making the wrong choice. They don't want to miss out. So they do nothing, or they get overwhelmed and just walk away. It becomes more stressful. But when you have one clear next step, there's a clear path for people to make a decision. Now, if that clear next step is in line with what you're talking about and what your listener needs, it's going to be the very best next step for them. And that's your job as a speaker, to find out what would be the very next step that you would recommend your listeners take if they wanted to get the results that you're talking about. So as a speaker, learning and being confident in that place and not feeling awkward about that, but being able to give a strong, clear call to action to your audience when you speak. Most speakers, most women speakers, neglect this part because they don't want to sound salesy. They've had a negative experience or connotation, or they've just not learned how to give an authentic call to action. And here's what I've discovered is that when you make this shift as a speaker, this becomes much easier and much more authentic. And it's this: when you realize and you shift your approach that speaking is actually not about you as a speaker. It's not about what you can give, but it's what your audience is going to get. It's not about what you can teach so much, but what your audience is going to take away. What can you offer to your audience that's going to help them get the results that you've been talking about, get the transformation, experience what you have been talking about, so that they can engage in that as well and walk in that. And so when you approach it from that perspective, that it's all about your listener and not about you, you're there to serve them. And when you're serving them, you offer or you invite them to engage with you in some way to get what they want. And then giving a clear call to action is much, much easier and much more authentic. So I hope this has been helpful to you. These 3 areas to help you to know, are these skills that you already have? Are they skills that you are honing? Do you need some help in any one of these areas? Maybe let me know in the comments which one of these you feel you need to improve. You need to have some training on. You need to develop. Remember, I talked about before, small tweaks lead to higher peaks. So maybe there's just some tweaks in that. But if you liked what you heard today and you want to get more speaking tips for women delivered right to your inbox, I have a Speak with Impact toolkit available for you at speakingtipsforwomen.com. Actually, that should be for women. Let me just change that. I just noticed that should be an E. Speakingtipsforwomen.com, and you'll be able to find out how you can access that right there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to connecting with you tomorrow and finding out more about how I can serve you and help you to become the very best speaker that you are called to, and reach the people that you're called to, so that your message is heard and your voice is also heard, because your voice is a vehicle of transformation and needs to be heard. So I'm so glad to have you here, and I look forward to connecting with you tomorrow. Same channel, wherever you tune in, or other channels. I'm on multiple channels at the same time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.